What is up, shitbags? Welcome back. We got episode 6, New Dogs, Old Tricks. Again, it's just crazy how fast things have been going. So number 6 here. This is our second to last guest that we're bringing on. We got one of our local chiefs coming on next week, and then it's going to be Brennan and I bullshitting again for December to talk about all the exciting things we got to
It's a bummer.
Yeah, we talked about it. Way to end on a low note. We got all the great guests, so that it's just us to end each year. So, but we're gonna just basically use that one as a kind of recap of the whole year. So the good stuff that we took away from it, things that really stuck with us, and most importantly, the plan for next year and everything that we got rolling forward. Which we mentioned a little bit last episode. We're just so excited for everything that's coming down the pipe. We got some awesome people coming on. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a crazy ride. It's a great way to reach out. We talked about it going. I mean, we're both wearing our matching hats. I know it's cute. We got into the job that we went to, but goals. It's a conversation to get goals. It's a conversation starter. It's a way to interact with people, and it's a way to learn from these guys from honestly the comfort of your own home. I mean, there's nothing more that we love. We said last episode, I think we got like 5 out-of-state trainings that we're going to next year. Like, there's nothing more than we love from that, but to add on top of that, to be here and just
talking
listen to people. Yeah,
firefighter.
It's awesome. It's been a ride. We can't thank you guys enough. Use this as a reminder because we finally, thank you. We'll thank him when he comes up to his question. We finally got our first question sent in from someone we know. We've got a couple people that we've seen that have given us questions and ideas here, but we got a DM and some very own questions to ask here. So send in your questions. It doesn't matter if you know who the guest is next or whatever. If you got something, send it in. But obviously, if you got personalized questions, you know the people, send them in. We love to throw them in there. I mean, we can only come up with so much. We're kind of like we said, the low ball, not the most excited. Yeah. So it's awesome. Can't wait. We love seeing everything grow like that. So yeah, send in your questions if you think of them. We're always happy to ask our guests. We'll throw them in there. We'll give you a little shout out, and yeah, it'll be a good time. So. We don't got any more announcements for this one. Brennan, got anything to throw in?
I got nothing. Let's get this one started.
Perfect.
Great guy we got today.
So we're going to bring in one of our very own captains from Beaver Dam. We got the man, the myth, the mustache, Captain Jahnke. What's up, Captain?
Awesome.
He puts mine to shame. He was the inspiration. I won't get there, but it's
yeah. No, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Captain?
Good.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, give a little introduction. So obviously we know you, but we want everybody to get to know.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think this is the letdown of the program, not you guys talking. So look at the guest list, and it comes to me, and setting up the next guest pretty well, because this is going to be a letdown. So, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's pretty humbling that you asked me. I appreciate that a lot, but yeah, no, I guess I started in the fire service back in 2010. I was a freshman in college, and I ended up coming back from college in the summer. I joined the local fire department in Juneau that my dad and both my grandfathers were on. So that's kind of where I got my start. Fell in love with it. Joined the local EMS, kind of the just traditional way from kind of where we're from, and kind of just kept pursuing it, going to classes. Ended up working in private EMS for a little bit to get some experience, and fortunately got hired in Beaver Dam in 2015. So worked for Watertown as a paid on call for 3 years, which was a great experience. So I've been in Beaver Dam for about 8 years, a little over 8 years, and currently a captain of shift 1. So I guess that's me. I got live just outside of Beaver Dam, and your wife and 2 dogs that I'm sure will interrupt at some point. That's about it.
You forgot to mention you're a published author too.
Yeah, I knew I shouldn't have came on this program.
No, it's an absolutely great article. If you ever read Fire Engineering, it talks about the hiring of people nowadays and what we can do better, what we're doing wrong, everything like that. So it's a great article. You've got some experience in that. You've been doing really good stuff with our recruitment retention on there. So I know that's where it came from. We give you the shit, but it was a good article, a very good one.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, just something that it's interesting times, I think, right now with just I mean, we talk about it a lot, right? I mean, it's crazy how it's just hard to find people, hard to find good people, but you got to work at it. You can't just expect them to want to come to your department or your organization. I think every job market out there, every occupation's dealing with it, and it's kind of balls in our court to do what we can to bring on good people and groom ones that we have. So
Yep.
it was just something I was kind of passionate about, and I thought, yeah, what the heck, throw it out there. And I was very fortunate that they thought it was good enough to publish it online. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, we got unless you want to add anything, give any shout outs. I know you said you're third generation, right? With your grandpa, dad. Oh, there you go.
Mug.
That is wow. What?
Jobtown.
Yeah, mugs.
Shout out to Jobtown for this great mug.
Oh, I know. We told him we got to put it in order. That is awesome.
Henry Street Hooligans. It turned out great. So sorry I had to do that.
Oh my God, that is awesome.
I wasted a lot of money. I shouldn't say wasted, but spent more money than I want to tell my wife on stuff like
that. You never know.
I still haven't gotten an honorary patch or anything. I kind of helped design that.
We'll get you one.
You left. That's your problem.
Hey, I didn't. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. We made our own patch. I always get spun around. I was like, oh, it's my right, my left. We got ours right there. But no, we actually just were talking about that. We got to put it in order and get our mugs and shirts. We want to try to get the shift shirts and stuff.
He's got some great stuff. I love buying from him. So
that's awesome. The mug looks great. The mug looks great. All right, Captain. We'll get right into the questions that we got for you because we got a couple here, and then Duffy left you with quite the loaded one to end it. So it's gonna be a fun deep dive into that conversation.
Oh man!
But the first one that we got, so we got our base ones that we ask everybody is, and you touched on it just a very little bit. How did you end up in the fire service?
Yeah, it was really, I guess, a traditional way with just family. My dad's still on in Juneau. He's been on, I think, like 40 years maybe or something. And then my grandpa retired. I was able to go. It was pretty cool. I was able to go to, some fires with him. And, he was on for, I think, 45. And then my other grandpa that he was on for 25. He ended up passing away when I was 2 or 3. But altogether, just them alone, I mean, the amount of years, and I was just always around it. Remember being a kid and going to, just events that they were doing, a lot of, fundraiser type stuff, and just always wanting to go see the trucks when, Dad would go on a call and looking up through the backyard if they had a house fire up on the main drag at Juneau, and just, it was just kind of always around it, riding in the trucks. And for a while, I didn't think of it as a career at all. Once you get in high school, I was kind of going a different way as far as what I wanted to do. And I guess it just kind of brought me back, and I'm glad it did. So, like I said, kind of got on Juneau, and it just kind of got hooked from there on. So, but yeah, definitely just family and being around it was what brought me and gave me the exposure to it for sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking just with combining your grandparents and your dad, you're talking over 100 years. Like that's
it's pretty cool.
A lot of years.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I feel bad. I was only able to get, before we moved, I was only able to get like 10 years on in Juneau, and I just always felt bad because it was like, man, I got all those years on one department. I wish I could have stayed, but But no, I mean, and even, I mean, my uncle, and it's always something we've been around, I've been around volunteering, family wise. So it's cool. I'm glad that's the way it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, volunteering is a great way to get your start. It's an extremely needed thing nowadays. We talked about, I saw one of the skits going around because my old volunteer department shared the cartoons, like just nobody, we talk about how nobody wants to do this job anymore. But then volunteering is like a whole nother aspect. There's so little people that want to even volunteer because it's the time. And we're a combination. We talk about that all the time. Like you want to see the part-timers, volunteers in doing as much training as you can because you realize how dangerous this job is and how much there is to learn. But all these guys got full-time jobs on top of doing this stuff, and it's hard to get what you need. So
No, you're right. It's tough. I mean, they're working their, you got guys that are working their 40, 50 hours a week at their normal job. And, they're coming in at maybe 3 a.m. and going to some call that you get. And then they got to work their normal job because it doesn't seem like, I always remember my grandpa telling stories that, everybody downtown back in the day, the meat guy and all that, they were all, the plumber, they were all in the fire department. So the whistle blew and they ran down to the firehouse. And, even when my dad, when my dad started, they still had a bunch of guys in town. And it's just not that way anymore. There's just, and a lot of employers, unfortunately, don't let their people leave. Or they make them use vacation time and time that they could spend with their family, if they go out on a fire call. And it's just made it a little harder. But it's going to be very interesting to see in 5 years where things are. Just in my short time, we would always be able to fill out a truck, but it got tougher as the years went on during the day.
Yeah.
And,
during the day, especially.
It's just tough. It's tough enough for us, right? Trying to get guys and gals to, come back and
2, 3 maybe during the day.
What's that, Brendan?
Well, 2, 3 people during the day.
Yeah.
Members.
Yeah. It's tough and it is what it is, but we got to do the best we can to, keep pushing and trying to get good people and trying to make it work, do more with less, I guess. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get into that a little more. I smile because I thought you maybe we're deep diving into one of our questions we got later. You read our minds. So no, it's good. The second one we got is, what did you do as a new firefighter to earn the respect of your crew?
I just always, I think you just got to keep it simple and just, work hard, be respectful. I think you do those 2 things. I always try to tell new guys and gals that, I'm not a big list of expectations guy. I'm nothing against that. I'm not one of these guys that's going to write down 15 things I want you to do. And I just, I try to tell people, just be a good person. And if you don't know what that means, all right, we'll work on that. But I think anybody coming into this job should understand what that means. Be a good person, work hard, and be respectful. And you should be just fine. And that's what I always tried to do. When I worked in Watertown as a paid on call, that was the first full-time department I was ever exposed to. And that's kind of where I learned that, that it's just, you try to go above and beyond to show that, this is a place to be respectful of people that have, been here, done that, and listen, keep the mouth closed and use your ears a lot more and listen and observe, and even if you know something and somebody's teaching you because they don't know what you know, just use it as confirmation that, hey, all right, I got this. I know this. All right, this guy or gal is telling me this, and I've heard this before. Don't cut them off. Don't be like, oh, I know. Because that I know. It's little things that'll just, it irks you as a human being. I think it'll put people off. And so just listening, asking a lot of questions, working hard, just kind of some real basic things. And I always tried to do that. I wasn't always successful at it, because sometimes you're just not successful. You get frustrated or something, and you maybe open your mouth when you shouldn't and stuff, but you got to learn from that too. But I think if you just work hard and show everybody, just try to be the hardest working person and show them that, hey, this job is something that means the world to me, and I'm not going to take it for granted. I don't know too many people that aren't going to, respect you, whether they disagree with you on things or not, so I just try to always live by that, I guess,
Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah, anytime I've ever had, the opportunity to give advice in that stance, it's always like you said, no, I know, because here is on. There's guys on our job that they'll explain something 16 times to you, but I said the best kind of saying that you can give is either if they ask if you know how to do it, it's yes, but I'd like to see it again. or,
Yep.
you know, I think so, but can you show me one more time? Like just
Yep.
a way of, you know, because sometimes, like I said, we got people that explain it to you 84 times, but
Mhm.
sometimes on the third or fourth time that you say, yeah, but I see it again, it jogs their memory, and they're like, oh,
Yep.
I just showed you this last week. You're right. Like, sorry. Like, because I think that's where people start to get into is as a probie, especially like where we are, you know, the trades and all this stuff, like you don't know what they've been taught.
Mhm.
So you see a probie and you're like, especially for a long time for us, we had like 6, 7 at a time. You just they all get joined together, confused. Like, oh, did I tell you this? Or did I tell the other one this? Or did we do this? Like, sometimes it's just a reminder, but it's always a good way, like you said, to get confirmation that, yeah, this is, I know how to do it. This is how we're supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, if somebody's trying to show you something, they're investing their own time to do that.
Mhm.
And you just don't want to be disrespectful, even if you do know something or you disagree with what they're telling you. Try to have a conversation with them, maybe, which isn't always easy, but
Yeah.
you know, they're trying to help you, and that means something, you know.
Yeah.
So be respectful no matter what the situation is. No, I think one thing that was hard too is you just want to impress people too. I mean, I know I did, you know, you want them to say, oh man, he's really got his stuff and he's squared away or whatever. And you can do that just by working hard. You don't have to know everything, you know, so
Yeah.
don't be afraid to, you know, be humble and be like, I don't know what you're telling me, or if I do know, I don't have to put it in your face. Oh yeah, I know that. No, it's okay. Nobody expects you to just be, you know everything. And that's true at any level, I think, on the job. But yeah, sometimes we put a little too much pressure on ourselves, I think, as probationary members, and people are there to help you, and you got to kind of let them, you know, so.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think your best time to show that stuff is on your calls or on the training, like around the
Mhm.
station. If guys are asking you to show things, that's never a dick swinging like, oh yeah, I know this, I know that. That's always
Mhm.
looking for help. Like, you know, we're not supposed to know everything, but when someone wants to see you know everything, it's on a call. Like, you know, where's this on the truck? Can you go get me this? What are we gonna do here? Like, and you're still not gonna know everything. You're gonna slip up on things. We've talked
Mhm.
about how sometimes even the older guys who got the 20, 30 years on, they forget where things are, like on the truck, because it's moved 6 times. Not that they haven't been here. So you always got to be learning, or maybe it's like we say it probably every podcast. You always got to be a student of the craft and always be learning. But yeah, there's a time to learn, a time to show your stuff, and I think that's where you got to draw the line.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, so next one we got on here. Now that you are a captain, and I had the displeasure of being my captain, so you had to put up with that for a while. How do you motivate young firefighters?
I always just try to, I guess, lead by example. I just think that, I mean, that those are the people that I always respected, were the ones that kind of led by example. You know, and just try to show, hey, you know, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to have high expectations for myself. So you should have high expectations for yourself. You know, go out there, and I think there's a sense of pride you get, and confidence when, you know, you go out there and you're self-disciplined on your own and you're throwing ladders or doing something to make yourself better. You know, do that extra hard work, and do it as, you know, an officer, a line guy, you know, whatever. But yeah, I just try to always just show that, hey, I'm going to be willing to do the work with you. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do. You know, and if I need to find, you know, different time to do stuff, you know, that maybe my own responsibility, I'll find that time and put in a little extra work, just so I can kind of be with you and working with you, and just being there, I think. And I feel like that helps motivate guys. I don't know, I'd have to ask them, but just showing your willingness to work, I think, is just something, again, that's very basic, but I think that's just how people react, is they just, you know, I've always respected that in officers and people that I've worked with. And I guess that's just the way I learned. So I'm going to try and do that, and not always successful at it. You know, I got my days where I'm, you know, feeling a little lazy or something too, you know, but I think that it's a good way to motivate people, is just lead by example in every way that you can. So
You should set goals for yourself,
mhm.
and sticking with those goals to challenge yourself, and that's how you get better. So that's how I run my, training and stuff. I set goals for myself. Like me and Bryce are going to Indiana. We're gonna try it out. So
Yeah.
that's one of my goals.
Yep.
We'll see where that goes, but um, just having those goals set and knowing what you want, where you want your career to go, um, shows a lot. Like that's how you learn. So
Yeah,
that's how I set
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brian. I think that's great. You guys are going. I think, like you said, goals. I mean, like we as a shift. I mean, we have the goals. Kind of up on the door
Yeah.
every shift, and it's just basic stuff. But what it does is it gives you a path of somewhere to go. I was always a big Arnold guy, and I listened to a lot of his stuff. And like he said, if you don't have goals, you're just kind of going through the motions. You don't have a clear path of what you want to do. I mean, if you have a goal, it's okay. Now I have a vision of what I want to do. Now it's just a matter of putting in the work, and not being afraid to fail at that. Like you said, you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to go, well, heck, I give you credit for doing that. And that's the thing, just trying stuff and working hard. You can't just sit there and just be afraid to fail, all the time, or you got to push yourself, you got to really work at, I think, self-discipline. And that's not easy. I mean, like I said, I fail at it a lot, but just trying to push yourself. And like you said, Brennan, set goals for yourself, for your crew, give them something to look forward to, work at during the day. Instead of just being like, well, we're gonna go do this to do this. And if you're doing a drill, talk about why it's important. If you're gonna throw ground ladders, talk about why it's important to throw ground ladders. And I think try and instill in people that take pride in the fact that you're a professional, whether you're career volunteer, doesn't matter, but the way you work and train, that makes you a professional. And I think it makes people act a certain way. It should, where it kind of squares them away a little bit, and helps them maybe pay attention to the details a little bit more. I think if you strive for, perfection, it's going to make you the best you can be. It can be frustrating at times because we're never going to be perfect, but those 1%ers out there, the reason they're 1%ers is because they do focus on the little things and the little details of everything they do. If they're going to throw a ground ladder, they're not going to just throw a ground ladder and be like, I got up. That's fine. How did it go up? What was the time on it? What was the efficiency? How did I feel about it? What would my next step be if I was doing, VES or something like that? So yeah, I mean, I think the more you pay attention to detail and set goals, like you said, Brennan, I think that motivates people. I mean, I guess how can it, because it gives them something to shoot for. So yeah,
Motivates you to be the best you can be.
Yep,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, be the 1%er. I think I just saw that quote surfacing around where was it the 10% of people shouldn't be there, 80% are just there to get shot at, 9% are your true fighters, and your 1% is the warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying that. I was like, okay, that's fair. I mean, you got the 10% of people that they shouldn't be here. They don't deserve to be there. That's the ones you got to put up with. That's the ones that toxic, make the service toxic. But you got to figure out how to do with them because they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got your 80% that's just there to collect a paycheck, be there, and your 9 and your 1%. I mean, the 1% should be the person leading in. That's your captain. It's your lieutenant, whoever it be. That's in a perfect world. That's who that is. And then your 9% is everybody behind them. So I mean it's kind of the sad truth that we're in. I mean, obviously, especially in the fire service, you like to think there's a lot more than 80% of people who are just here to collect a paycheck, but it's everywhere that's pertinent in some way or another. Maybe not 80%, but maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 50. And you got to deal with it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think our occupation falls into the same same problems that probably every other one does. If you talk to people that aren't even in the fire service, they got, maybe 5 people that do the work, and you got the same breakdown, I guess I should say, unfortunately. But when you have, a higher percentage of those people that are striving for perfection, or that 1%, and I think we got a ton of them. I think that's when you have something special, and you just got to keep pushing, because we know it. That's not everywhere, that you can get that group of people that are pushing together and work as a team, and are striving to be the best. It's not, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's that common to get that sometimes in the fire service. And that's too bad, but all you can do is control yourself and try to teach people. And like I said, lead by example, whether you're an officer or not, lead by example, because maybe you get one of those people away from that path we don't want them to go down.
Yeah.
Followers.
Yep. Yeah.
Getting that culture change, aggressive culture change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That culture is everything, so if you can do that, the more people you get, the easier it becomes,
Yeah.
It just seems to be the way it is, and it takes work, but I think anything worth doing, I guess, is going to take work. So, but yeah, I think one thing that is kind of a side note, is like, one thing that I always remember that bothers me a lot is, like, when we say, if we're doing a after action or something like that, hindsight's 2020. It's just a terrible saying. It's either, it comes from a place of sometimes discomfort with having a little bit harder conversations, comes from, trying not to beat yourself up sometimes, I guess, but it's an awful thing for us as professionals to say after a fire or a call, is that, oh, hindsight's 2020. It just diminishes. To me, it always diminished everything either we just talked about or we did on that call to, it doesn't really matter. And I highly doubt 1%ers feel that way. I highly doubt anybody that is in the military, special forces, or, in our job or something. I highly doubt that they got there by having that hindsight's 2020 mindset. And it's okay. I mean, we all make mistakes, but we got to learn from them, and we got to be able to kind of own up to them and talk about them. Because if we're going to go to a fire, I want to be better at the next one. I mean, Brennan, you guys, when you had that fire, I'm sure you guys did that, where you talked about it. You're like, hey, we want to improve, and you don't beat people up. You do it as a team. And it's not a feel good thing. Like, hey, you're going to encourage people. You should, work together to get better. If one of us made maybe a mistake or something, but that's okay. It's okay to talk about that stuff. Otherwise you're just going to do the same thing.
Exactly. We all learn from our mistakes.
Exactly. We all make them. So why not learn from them? And the ones I make, I'd prefer you guys learn from them before you do them. That's always one thing that we're talking about, the 1%er thing. And that hindsight's 2020, kind of along that mindset, the fire went out kind of deal. It's just
fire went out and nobody got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. It's junk.
It's right up there. Yeah.
We're supposed to be professionals, and we're supposed to be people that, people, look up to and expect to come. Like, I always remember Mo Davis saying in his, when I was down in Florida, with Eric at that fire conference, that was the first time I ever saw Mo. And like he said, when people lay their kids down at night, we're the watchers, we're the ones that if something bad happens, it's us and the cops. If something bad happens, we're the people for them. And you should take pride in that. And if you do, that means you're having those strategic talks after calls where you're having constructive criticism, and you're working as a team to make sure the next one you do a better job. Even if it went great, you're going to find stuff. That
we should nitpick. Okay. I could have pulled this cross lay faster than I did. I can mask up faster than I did.
Yeah.
Because this job, seconds count.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Time's not on our side when we get dispatched. We're behind the 8 ball before we roll out.
Yep.
So having that in mind, nitpicking everything, no fire call is going to be perfect. Everyone's going to mess up something. You should pick that out so the next fire call, we don't mess that up again.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we don't get many fire calls. I think fires are down overall throughout the United States, but a lot of people have. Okay, I know I'm going to get one next shift. A lot of people have it. We just don't have that around here, so we have to sit on our mistakes, think about them for a while until we actually get that next fire. So you should be thinking, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And it is kind of one of those unfortunate things that it can really eat away at you because you don't know when your next fire is going to be. I don't remember if it was a Warriors book I read or if it was one of the FTNY videos or something, but like one of the guys said, he's like, I can make a mistake in the morning, by the afternoon, I can correct it and I can feel better about it. I can be like, all right, I went to a fire in the afternoon and I made the right move instead of the wrong one like I did this morning. We don't have that. And I think that's the one balancing point that you have to do. And I feel like the hindsight 2020 is sometimes how people do it. And I just don't think it's the right way, is that don't let it eat you to the point where it's just going to burn you out. Go on the training ground, talk about it as a group, acknowledge it, and say the next one I'm going to do better. And that's where you go from there and start building the habits so that when the next one comes up, you're ready to go.
Yep.
Don't let it eat away at you so much that eventually you're just, you're so hard on yourself that it's non-productive. I just think there's a balancing point. Maybe that's just me, but again, those 1%ers didn't get to be 1%ers by just saying, it's all right. Those phrases that we hear all the time. So, that's just something that I've never really liked. I think it's kind of a cop out. I hate if that's too strong to say, but it kind of is.
No, it is. Yeah, we just talked about that last year. We were talking about the right along the lines. The fire went out, nobody got hurt. Like it's just it's a way to feel good, but you shouldn't feel good in this job on everything. There's always be things. I mean, you go like we talk about fire there, then we go EMS. It's some of the things that I even when I'm up in up the tech is like once you start nitpicking, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've gotten to the stage where it's not I messed up this bad, I did something detrimental. It's like we have with Jeffrey Ecker when you get on, and he'll go through some of the stuff the mistakes he learned. But not only being confident to make mistakes to learn from, but once you've gotten those out of the way, and you're like, okay, we did a great job here, but what could I have done better? Could I have masked up better? Could I have pulled across? So once you start nitpicking, that's a good thing. That's why I always say is like, don't beat yourself up once we start nitpicking. That means we've done all the basic stuff. We're at a basic level. Now it's time to go above that. Hey.
Let's build upon
Off that, the basics.
Yeah. I think that, Jeffrey Eckert stuff you guys were talking about I think that's fantastic. That's all, everybody should be. Brennan, I know we were talking that one day, I was showing you that video and I said, if you want to watch it, but just always make sure if you're watching any of my helmet cam or anything like that, is that I want you to come out of it with what mistakes did you see me make? Because it really is like, I hate watching them because it's just, you go through them and personally, it's like, what were you doing? Why would you take that long? And too many times, you watch them and, I think it's kind of like, well, it's cool video, whatever. That's great, but I think we're getting to the point where, we don't have that as a department. We do that. We do take that mindset into it as like, hey, how can we correct this? I think we all have that own personal feeling, but you have to. And I think if you can, if you guys get a fire and we can watch how you guys did stuff, all right, I can see that. All right, we got to do that. We got to make sure we do the good things that they're doing and the bad things they're doing better, So, you gotta show people your mistakes. I never understood, the not being able to be, I don't know if it's humility or what, but who cares? People are going to respect you a lot more for saying, hey, you might think this looks okay or good, but here's where I'm coming from. I think this is mistake. And it might be like, oh, wow, all right, that's how we get better. That's how you strive to be a 1%er, right? I mean, just learning from that stuff, like you said, Brendan, and I think it's just important, and doing it in a constructive manner. Too many times I think we have a gotcha culture in the fire service where it's like mistakes are just like things that there's people out there that love looking for them because they got you. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at those guys. They're always supposed to be so good. And look at that. They made a mistake or they missed this or that. And what a counterproductive thing. And what a horrible thing to show Joe Public if they ever knew that that's how we are in the fire service, is that we have this own ego fight going on where we just think it's great when other people make mistakes, not only in the station or around the firehouse, but on a call. I mean, I'm sorry, that's not a good culture.
No.
That is toxic, and that's not good. So learning from mistakes in a constructive way is the way to do it, and just acknowledging them. It's okay. It's why you have good people around you. Because they're not going to hold it against you, right? So
that's right. That's why you have to surround yourself with good people. Be good. If you surround yourself with shitbags, you're going to be a shitbag.
Yep. And it starts. I mean, I'll be honest. It starts with us, as officers. I mean, that is our responsibility to make sure that culture doesn't happen, and make sure that we lead by example. I've made mistakes saying stuff. I mean, and plenty of mistakes, and I kick myself and say that was stupid. What did that show the guys? What did that show them? Because now I just led by a very poor example. But if you want that culture, we as officers, we got to work at it, and we got to lead by example of saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to say, oh, shift whatever did this, makes us feel better about the mistakes we made or something. No, that's not how it works. So
we're in this job together. We have to learn together.
Exactly. Yep. We're one department, one group,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Next one that we got down on here is, what do you think brings a crew together the best?
I think being together, just as a very basic general statement. I think you're always going to have different personalities, but I think if you do things around the firehouse together, and it's not always easy, as we know it, we all have our own responsibilities depending on the department you're on. So sometimes you go your separate ways, but making a deliberate effort to make sure we're doing things together, whether it's doing chores, whether it's, training, especially, but, just every little thing, I mean, I think it's great when guys are sitting and just talking together. I think it's great. That's the way it should be. You can look at that and say, that's the bond is being built or strengthened right there, that everybody is together talking, making sure you're doing the little things, like for us, that coffee break in the morning, whatever you need to do, even if people go their separate ways, make sure you have a way to get them all in that one place, whether it's just doing the training in the morning. Hey, meet up at the kitchen table. That gets everybody together. And then I think off of that, it spins off of, guys and gals talking like a family, and being together. But yeah, the more you do together, I think it just brings people together. And then doing those fun things, at night or on a weekend or something, pick a movie and say, hey, we're all going to sit. And I know Matt was telling me you guys do that. And, just doing that on a weekend where, or whenever, just say, hey, we're going to sit together and we're going to bond, because it's so important.
And then we try to get one every night. We try to get a movie.
That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, that's huge. Even if you're not trying when you're sitting there with everybody, it's still going to build that bond. Together. I mean, think of any sports team you were ever a part of in high school. It was always you guys against the world in some ways, because you always went through hardships together. You went through good times together. And then, the next level is hanging out outside of work. And I'm a big failure at that, but it is important. It is so important to spend time, you know, Anthony was, little shout out to him. He was talking to me yesterday about like, do we do a family day? And like bring our families in, you know, to show what we do at the firehouse, but then they get to meet all of us and see the people that we go to work with, and hopefully ease their stress about any dangers we see, or they're going to be like, oh, I don't want you working with those guys anymore. So hopefully that's not the case. But
three different shift requests after the family day. You're like, shit.
Yeah, I don't feel better about you going to work anymore. But you know, meet the people that are going to have your back. You know, I know Josh always talked about that too. Is that, you know, they got so close when he was down in Georgia that the wives were good because they knew that those guys and gals they worked with were going to do everything they could to make sure they came home. So, you know, stuff like that, man, once the families meet, that's huge. So that bond can just get really strong, you know? So, but yeah, that's, I think just being together and as an officer facilitating that, making sure that that's happening, is very important to your crew and how well they perform, you know? So.
Yeah. It's always a fun thing. Like I said, we tried to do our shift outings and everything. We're talking about doing a Christmas party and just figuring stuff out outside of work. But
I've gotten some invites to those, haven't I? Yeah.
Laser tag, Cap. Next one. Next one.
Shooting guns, laser tag. I think you got invited to. Oh shoot!
I'll get you some patches, Brennan.
Yes.
I was gonna say you'll get an invite once I get my patches. Yeah.
No. But I think that's great. I love what like you guys are doing. I think it's fantastic. I think that's really, really a great thing, and it just is going to help you through. You know, if we all work together for 20, 30 years, it's just going to help us all. We're all going to go through life struggles together and stuff. Exactly. And I think the quicker you can build that bond, the better. I mean, it's just good to have people around you. So
you're here with these people for a third of your life. So, you know, it's a big thing. I saw, I was scrolling through TikTok and there's some comedian who's apparently married to a firefighter, an FDNY. She doesn't say a name or anything. It doesn't matter, but talking about how grown adults shouldn't be having sleepovers like we do. So like we corrupt the person. Like they come back from the firehouse and they've got all these conspiracy theories and they got all this stuff. Like you do become a part of like your identity. And those people that you work with, they set your tone. You know, you go in, you spend 24 hours with, for us, 7 different people. It's like they're going to influence your personality, for your life, really, with a third of your life you're spending with them. Like you come home with a little bit of each of the people that you work with. Oh,
most definitely. Yeah. And we definitely solve so many world problems at the kitchen table. If we could only run the world, it would be a great place. It's so true.
Right. We solve all those problems just sitting around there or in the recliners. That's where all the good ideas come out.
Yep. Yep, we'd be, you know, it's amazing we haven't become rich yet because we got so many ideas on how to do it, but this doesn't seem to happen.
Maybe we are the right ideas if none of us have gotten rich. Maybe we are the ones that
right. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's such a fun time. It's such a fun job. Something that just you don't think about that, but it really does influence you, and there is some form of comfort in that when your families know who you're going with. I mean, I've heard it mentioned all the time that families of us, they know that when the tones drop, it's not like we have a death wish or that we think we're going to die, but they know that we're going to do whatever we need to do. And that they're going to be the last things in our mind at that time, because in reality, that slows you down. You think, oh, can I do this? I mean, when we get Frazier on here, I'm going to love talking to him about that, hearing him speak at Wichita about his grab, but he basically jumped down the basement through fire, and like he said he gave himself like a second of second guessing, basically, or of like gearing himself up. But like if you're sitting there going, man, I may not come back out to my family, that's one, either going to make you slow and not want to do it, or two, it's going to make you make a mistake because you're not going to be relying on your training. You're going to be going on that. But knowing, and he talks about this, he said knowing that his lieutenant, his crew is behind him, if anything happens to him, he knew they were going to be there to get him. And if your family can get that same kind of comfort that, okay, I know that what he's doing, what they're doing is dangerous, but I know that everybody around them will do whatever they need to do to make sure that she comes home. And I think that's the best way that you can do it.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Yeah. And that grab you're talking about, I hope you get him on too. Because that when you guys showed me that, and I think Justin was showing me and just walking me through that's what the job's about. You hope you could perform like that someday. That's what we all work for, I think. But that was pretty cool stuff. It really neat stuff. But yeah, that's nail on the head there for sure.
It's part of the job. It's like we said, nobody has a death wish, but
yeah,
you should know what you signed up for. This isn't. Hell, nowadays you can go to a desk job and still die. Like it's nothing's guaranteed in life, but we know we're not going to work at McDonald's or in a cubicle. Like we know that this could be your last drive into work, and anybody's can, but it's more than that. I think we mentioned it last time that JD said is saying about his special forces buddy, who you can be the most trained guy in the field. It doesn't mean some guy that has zero training can't just spray an AK across the side of a wall and clip him in the head. You train to minimize your risk, but that risk is never going to be zero. You could do everything right, but there's going to be something bad that can happen.
Yeah. No, I remember him saying that was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. You can do everything right. Because I think at least I always have, whenever you see somebody that, whether it's in the fire service, police officer, or special forces, or somebody, where you're like, man, they were a stud, or they were, how did that happen? And you're like, that's just the way it goes sometimes. If it's your time, it's your time, unfortunately, I guess. And you can be, like you said, like JD said, it's you can be the best trained person in the world and perform excellent. And sometimes it's not going to work out. And that's just unfortunately a reality. But, one thing that I remember going to Brothers in Battle when they came over to Houston's for Cody Tress Trail and them, they did their training over there at a house, and that was great. But one of the things they talked about the first night in the classroom portion was that, we're not the most dangerous profession in the world. We're not dying as much inside fires. We're not dying doing primary search. We're not dying, attacking the fire, or not as much as the other stuff, driving, cardiac problems, things like that, and that's like he said, that's the mission, is to be searching for life. So to hide behind that, it's so extremely dangerous. Obviously it's dangerous. But there is a reality there that, the reason people, like, I'm trying to think of how he said it. The reason people that give us a memorial service is because we choose to do a noble profession for somebody else. There might be other occupations where people get killed at a higher rate, but we're choosing to do it for somebody else. And once we lose that, well, then what's the point? So that goes back to probably everything we could ever talk about or ever have, is that, it's all about the mission and what we're trying to do. That's the main thing, right? And we have it in all our SOGs, right? Every probably department, life safety, right? Well, what does life safety mean to you? Because, maybe your training program doesn't, or how you act on the fire ground or in any emergency doesn't really correlate with that number one goal, right? So,
Yeah, I always hate hearing the ones and there's a time and place for it, but the ones that life safety, and then the people that feel the need to throw in there, and our life safety is always at the top.
Yeah, no,
like it's like, okay, some people, you get where you're coming from and a thing, like, okay, yeah, I know I was okay. We don't know what happened to them there, but like, no, we do it for them. Life safety is life safety. If there's somebody that's in there, I'm going to get them. That's what I signed up for. It's not on the risk a lot to save a lot, risk a little, save a little. Like, they all got their places ish. They've just been blown up so much that it's an excuse. It's I could die going to that. So, my life's worth more than theirs, so I'm going to stay out here. It's just, it doesn't have a place. It's been so beaten down and just overused, blown up that it's just, that always pissed me off. And you feel that need to throw that in there. It's like, no, that's not what you signed up for. That's not what you did. That's not what our job's about.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's, how do you act like you're this, noble profession if your mentality is going to be that you're more important than the whole point of your job, which is the people in the community. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It never made sense. I mean, I remember going through my first classes and it was always, it was pounded into your head that our safety is number one. And it just always, I hope it's everybody, but I remember it just made your gut feel weird. Like that just doesn't add up. That, wait a minute, why? And then now it feels like it is we're having this, and I haven't been around long enough, but it seems like we're having this culture switch where the other side of things that says, no, this is what the job's about, is getting more traction by the day and pushing that, firefighter rescue survey. They're like, hey, you want statistics? We'll give you statistics because, risk a lot to save a lot doesn't have any statistics behind it. That's just a saying.
Yep.
So we'll give you where people are found in fires. What's the risk of firefighters? How many are dying inside at a primary search? We'll give you all that. Here you go. It's right here. 3,000 of them. Here you go. If that's not a big enough database, we'll just keep collecting it.
Yep.
So, search culture on Facebook. I mean,
I just saw it this morning.
It's like, you want statistics, we'll give you statistics. But don't tell us how to do our jobs based on a saying or one instance that happened.
Yeah.
And then just have a catchphrase that now lasts for, sometimes decades. It affects a culture for decades in the fire service when there's drivers in our job that say, no, this is going to be the talking point. And now it affects everything, our training, our basic training. And now when people get on the job, we're trying to take that out of them and say, no, that's not how or why we do this job.
Yeah.
And it's so counterproductive. It's just kind of sad, I mean, just again, that whole safety, kind of culture, is just, if you truly believe in safety, then your safety officer should be one of the most integral people in your training program. Because if they have nothing to do with your training program, then how can you say that they're doing their job or you're doing their job as far as safety? And what I mean by that is your training program should be darn aggressive at the request of that safety officer, because that's what's going to keep you the safest on the scene, whether you're doing
aggressive
fire. Then they should be saying, no, this is how we're going to do live fire drills. And do them right. And do search drills, do appropriate basic training. Like Brennan, we had at FDTN, right? Do the stuff that's actually going to keep you alive and get you home versus, no, we're not going to do that. Or they're just going to have no part of it. They're just going to come to a training and say, that's not safe. That's not safe. That's not safe. I've never understood that, I guess.
This job isn't safe. You can't practice for it. It's not the most dangerous, but
it's gray. It's not a black and white job.
We play in the gray.
It's about people making, like you guys. It's about, younger people and people starting off, teaching them to be independent thinkers. Because if you can, for us, get 6 to 8 people on the fire ground that don't have to talk to each other or have a leash on them, where they're, everybody's following in a line behind, Mother Duck, you're going to do a hell of a job on that fire scene or that accident scene or wherever you are. Is that, give your people confidence, let them make decisions, and you'll be surprised, I think, what they do on scenes and how much they do know. You just have
trust in your people.
Yep. You just got to give them an opportunity, right? Brennan, let them make mistakes. You know, like I said, I've made plenty of them. Everybody's made plenty of them. You know, but
How you learn.
yeah, get them
Mistakes.
confidence. The coolest thing is when you're on a fire scene and you make your first decision as a person where nobody told you to do it, and it's a good one. That is such a confidence booster when you like, man, I feel like I'm actually a fireman. Because I made that call, and that was like, that kind of worked out okay. Like, let them have those moments, you know. But yeah, sorry, that's kind of a rabbit hole, but
no, that's what we're here
That's good
for.
stuff.
yeah.
No, that's
so-
I mean that's why you train. That's why you train with the crew. I mean, that cycling all the way back. That's why as officers it's important to go out with your crew and know what they can do. Because then you know the things that you don't have to say. I mean, we've got a plan A. You know, as a shift, we have a plan A that we know that if we roll up on a scene, that's plan A. If anything changes, the officer will tell us. But our captain, our lieutenant, they know what we are going to do if we're not told anything.
Yep.
You know, so we go to work, we do our job, and all they have to voice is if something should change. If this isn't appropriate here, if they know there, but we all know what plan A is. So we all can get off the truck and start moving with plan A, because that'll work 80%, 70, 50, whatever it is. It'll work a vast majority of the time. How you adapt is based on your firemen, based on your lieutenants, based on your captains. I mean, they based on the situation. That's why you train. That's all our job is our gray. Being adaptive, going with the flow, figuring out what works best.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah, we always enjoyed it. We talked about that on trainings of when you can give some people orders and you feel like you have to hold their hand the whole way, or that they stop and wait for a confirmation order on top of the order that you already been given. It's like, if I tell you to do something, you do it. You should, or I shouldn't have to tell you put out the fire. Like, that's
what the preparation's for, right? I mean, otherwise you're just kind of paralyzing people on scene because you've made them feel like they have to ask you for everything, and they can't do things on their own, and they don't have the confidence to do it on their own. I mean, I go back to high school football all the time. It's like, it sounds dumb, but it's like, how many times did you run the same play? And the coaches would just let you have it. If it wasn't like you just ran it over and over. But why in the fire service are we not stretching lines every day or every week or month? Why are we, the first, I guess, why is the first time sometimes we're doing it is only when the fire call comes in.
Yeah.
Or only, like it goes back to training. Like how can you build muscle memory, in this job without doing things frequently and getting reps in? But in high school, you ran the same play 50 times because it was necessary.
You still mess it up.
And you still mess it up. But then you become an adult and a firefighter, and it's just going to be different. Oh, nothing changes.
Yeah.
You still got to be out there, going to places, getting a stretch in, and doing the muscle memory things and building those habits, because otherwise you're just going to be, we're all perfect up here. We can all walk through a fire, the next one in our head, and it's going to go great. But then you start pulling stuff and something goes wrong, or you start doing any task and it just unravels quick, So yeah, it just comes down to training.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like you said, getting down the rabbit holes. These are great. This is why we're doing it. That's exactly why we got our list of questions to get us back on topic. But we love when we get off and start going on tangents, because that's where the good comes. I mean, like last episode with Duffy, when we started getting to the mental health stuff, like that. Sure. It's just there's so much good that comes from the rabbit holes. So
yeah.
But the next one we got on here, so this is, like we said, it's our first one sent in. So reminder again, send in your questions. If you got something you want asked or that you wish you asked, whatever it be, send it in. We'll include them where we can and fit them in there. So this comes from Chris from Grand Chute Fire. So that's in Wisconsin, up by us, a little more north of all of us, me and Beaver Dam. So he asks, what are your bread and butter in-service company level trainings that you do regularly?
Oh, for me, it's just, I go back to, from being taught this, but then going to FDTN with Brennan, just the basics. I'm not a guy that's going to, give you 15, 20 complex expectations, and the training that I'm going to, I'm fortunate because I got great guys, and they can run, and they they do such a great job, and I really don't have to do much. But for me, we're going to throw ground ladders. We're going to make stretches. We're going to make stretches at target hazards in the community. We're going to do strategy and tactics training, and we're going to talk about it. We might watch some videos, but we're going to do it productively, because I want to know, like what we were just talking about. I want to know what your mindset is, and you should know what mine is. So if we watch a video or look at if we have our own first in training or something, all right, what are you thinking when you get off the truck? You know, is there is there a thought process there? How is your thought process? You know, and because I'll tell you what, most of the time I'm pretty surprised. I shouldn't say surprised, but I'm impressed, because you hear guys and gals be like, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this is why. And you're like, that's squared away. That's good. And it builds that trust, like Brendan was talking about, you know, so, and then when you got to tell them what you were thinking, again, it just makes that fire or emergency scene go better, because now you're getting on the same page. But so I like doing that one. But really just the basics, you know, and then mix in those things you don't do frequently. But again, ground ladders, hose stretches, forcible entry, talking about going to emergencies and what you're going to do as a crew. I guess I would say that's the bread and butter that I like to do, because I just think that's what I've learned matters. You know, mask ups. I mean, you can see a crew masking up at a fire. I mean, you don't have to watch, you know, you hope you're the guys that people look at and say, man, those guys really masked up quick. And that's what you strive for. But you don't have to go far to watch inefficiencies with masking up, you know, out there. So I think that's a great drill that goes back to, you know, time's the enemy. I mean, you know, 5 seconds here, 4 seconds there, that adds up pretty quick. You know, and we're all paramedics. We know what happens to the brain 4 to 6 minutes, right? You know, I mean, so for us to say that 30 seconds ain't going to matter. Yeah. Okay. You know,
I've heard that once or twice where we are, and it's just, I can't believe that, especially like you said, coming from medics too. Yeah. I can't believe that is a thought process. I can't believe how much it understands. I mean, you get a cardiac arrest and you see how everybody bounces up from chairs, everybody's sprinting, everybody's moving with a purpose. And not to say that they don't when a fire comes in, but there's still times where, like, you're sitting there for sometimes a driver, sometimes one other person. You're like, okay, come on. Like, why aren't we, like, they're walking down to the apparatus bay. They're, you know, it's just, it's very, very interesting how there's that separation there, where exactly like you said, especially with us, when we are fire medics, you know how much 30 seconds is. And I heard that 30 seconds is not a lot of time. And I was like, how can you think that in a burning building, that 30 seconds is not a lot?
Hold your breath.
Yeah.
And burn.
Go sprint on a treadmill for 30 seconds and then suck through a cocktail straw for 30 seconds and see how long it is. You know, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And we're all guilty of it, where you just, you know, sometimes you don't move as quick as you should, or you get a little lazy or complacent, but don't strive to make sure it doesn't happen again. But time is definitely not on our side. I mean, you know, you can stretch a line perfect and it still takes time, right? So if you never train on it, boy, is it going to take a lot of time. Time is really what we're fighting. There's, like you said, Brendan, there's no doubt about it. So cut those seconds out if you can. Do the best you can to make it, you know, short, and then just put a priority on, you know, what matters, a primary search. You know, I think that's something I feel like around our area or neck of the woods, it's just something that has always taken I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of line, but it seems like, you know, the primary search is just not as much of a priority. And I think it's becoming that. I think through some of these trainings that are coming from people across the country and guys and gals going out and fighting to go to these trainings and get outside their bubble. I think we're realizing what we should be doing on the fire scene. But again, it goes back to actually practicing what we're striving for, and that life safety being our number one priority. And any of our SOGs or whatever, so, urgency, work with urgency and making sure that you're shaving the time off, but then you're getting that primary started ASAP, as quick as you possibly can, depending on conditions. So, basics. Brennan, what did they say? Basics always work. I mean,
when you got high heat, limited visibility or none visibility,
your mind is,
and you're already exhausted. Guess what we did? We fell right to the basics. So no fancy, nothing's gonna work.
Yeah,
and they proved that to us, and that's the biggest thing I got out of that training. And slowing your mind down when things get hard.
Yep, knowing those dirty drags and stuff. I mean, there's
that's what we fell back on.
Yeah,
getting them out.
Yep.
No webbing harnesses, nothing like that, because your ass is burning in there. It was uncomfortable, and you just want to get the hell out.
Yeah, I mean I think that's why. I mean, I'll give a little shout out to Daly and them. That's why I think the victim drag strap is getting such ground, and it's so special because it's right there. Because you go to all these trains. There was some just by us that were get the whole webbing, the halo, the harness on there, and that fuck that. You're gonna dig in your pocket, find your webbing, grab it. Like that's why at least the victim's drag is still dirty drag. It's right there. You're wrapping and all you're doing is increasing your grip strength. You're not trying to convert something. You're still doing the exact same movement. Your dirty drags, and that's what works. That's what's been proven to work. And you're not able to make a halo.
Would you make a halo in the hoarder house in the training?
Yeah.
Up in FDTN? You think that would work, Wes?
Yeah, right. No, you guys are right. I mean, you guys are absolutely right. I mean, we just did a search drill yesterday down at the training center, and it was kind of built off of that one we did, Brennan, with the firefighter down in that pit where you had to get him out. And I just asked the guys, I said, well, how to go? And then we talked about it, and I said, how do you think it would have went trying to use like webbing or what I shouldn't say this, but gimmicks. And they were kind of like, no, that would not have worked, and we just talked about how drags and technique and, communication between each other is so much more important. And the minute you start putting complex technical skill sets into an environment like that was proven to us, Brennan, it's just not going to work. You're going to waste more time. You're going to get your heart rate up more because you're trying to do something very technical. Your mind is just going to be, going to that blackout stage where now you're really not going to be able to function versus just technique. And, like Brennan and I found out, sometimes it's getting really hot and it just kind of motivates you to just, let's get this done. Like, let's work together and get this done.
Take a breath, get your mind right.
Boa.
Slow
down. Think about what you're doing. And you go a lot faster than just trying to drag somebody out, because just dragging somebody out doesn't work. Because you get hung up on stuff. You pissed off at each other, so only one person's working. You're not working together.
Working against each other. Yeah.
Working against each other, knocking each other over, and you get pissed at each other. Figure all that out, and that's the biggest thing I took out of that training. It was very good.
Absolutely. I think we talked about, not to keep going back to it, it's just such a great I mean, it's the best training I think in the country. I mean, I think that truck captain from Orlando, like he said, his guys don't talk really when they're in a fire doing search and stuff, because they know each other. And we've kind of been bred to over communicate, right? Like, hey, I just moved my right hand. I need to tell you about it. Like, it's just not good. And it takes your mind away from what you should be focused on, which is trying to have the dexterity to feel a human victim that, I hate to say it, maybe in our entire career, we'll never have to do that. But so you better be ready and be, if you, like you said, Brendan, slow your mind down, try to enough that, when you feel, hey, the dummy or, live victim, that's why live victims are important, right? Because it's a training scar thing. And, I'm as guilty as anybody using the mannequins and the dummies and stuff. But, think about what you're touching. I mean, when we did that VES drill, how many times do they tell us, hey, you guys literally went right over the victim. You touched them. And because your mind is thinking about so many different things. And like he said, if you're over communicating, you're making it more stressful. And then when you come to a victim, instead of continuing to ask the other guy, hey, you ready? You ready? When he's not ready, it's just going to stress him out more. So just feel, if you're at the head, if you can feel him moving, he's probably not ready. So just give him the time. And then once he stops, hey, bud, you ready? Yeah, I'm good. Don't keep talking. We just talk way too much. And it just gets worse the more stressed you get, so but that was, again, phenomenal training. And the basics work, basic drags, it's just what works, so.
I wish to start training like that in the department. And like doing a workout before we go train. I think that just getting that stress.
Yeah.
Being go do something and then trying to do those rescues or the search drills when they're already drained.
Yep.
That's real life.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you talked about Frazier, I was fortunate enough to go to his tactical advantage education training over in Houston a number of years ago. And when we'd go and do some of the drills, he would have teams, one team gets one side of the car, one team gets the other, and you do a maneuver. He'd have you do, he'd say, all right, you guys are going to do 50 jumping jacks in your gear before you actually start, because it just drained you. And it just took your mind to a place where now
Get your heart up.
Yeah, I'm tired. And all I can think about is being tired. And all of a sudden your technique and everything else just goes. It's just gone. So, that is very important. We all know how we are when we're fatigued. It's just, you're just not as good, unless you train that way. So,
Yeah, I think recently, because we hit it on the last one and we made an extra kind of push to start doing it more frequent on our shift and more consistent. And we got to do it a lot last shift because like the best time that you can do your practice runs with your real life speed is like your fire alarms. And so that's what we've done our shift is it's the expect fire, expect victims. You already basically should be doing that, but like it says something when you are genuinely moving at the speed that you would for a fire. And Brennan and I got to be on the truck last shift, and we were giving our captain shit because we beat the engine out on both our fire alarms. So as the truck, so everybody's it's all
in the middle of a workout,
stuff, but
we're running.
Yeah, we're moving at speed, and everybody on our shift is starting to realize like that's when we're getting our reps in, because it really is. It's a good way to benchmark your times to see, okay, how fast are we getting out the door, and it puts you in that mindset of the expect fire, because we talk about that all the time of, oh yeah, it's just another fire alarm. You get complacent, like you preach that, but then you still are walking to the truck. Okay, maybe we won't go hot to this. Maybe you can stay back and we'll call you if we need it. Like we're still expecting fire, but if we get there, then the simplest way to expect it is to treat it like it's real.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
I think we got that in Wichita, because Wichita, they run it like an actual fire. They stretch lines. They deal with fire alarms like a training. It's another rep.
Yeah.
They do everything that they would on a real fire, which is great. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And then I was terrible at it. I was like, oh, it's just another fire alarm, whatever. Now I'm like, okay, it turns out to be nothing. I got a training rep on it, so I think we're doing a good job on the fire alarms, just treating it like a real fire.
Yeah. The third one we got was it was kind of like the exact thing, because it was the one we knew they'd been having problems, but Brennan and I, we were geared up. The truck was on. We didn't pull out yet, but by the second page was ended up being the cancellation page. Like we were flying. We were ready, and even though we knew, okay, we've been here 6 times last month, but that's exactly how the line of duty happened, where they've been there consistently. You got construction that was setting it off, and then all of a sudden they opened the doors and boom, they got fire. So, but it says something when you can move that quick and you can start getting those reps in there and having those nice benchmarks.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. That's I was there when you guys pulled out with the truck, so I was like, oh, that was fast. So no, that's cool. I think that's great, and I think that's why I enjoyed being on our department, because we have guys like you guys that you're pushing that envelope. You're doing things the right way, and it's just it's just great. It's just a great thing that's happening. So, and again, it goes back to time, right? So like you said, and you guys got out the
Seconds
door
count.
that fast. I mean, shave 30 seconds. That's great. Shave anything. It's great, but anytime. But yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah, we are making our way through all of these. So this is great. We got our 15. So we probably got the one more question to hit here, and then we're going to go to our closing one.
Okay.
And this is one that I hope you dig in a lot, because I've heard you speak on this a lot. And how do you stay positive in the fire service when facing departmental issues?
I think the best thing you can do is just try to just take time to think about stuff a little bit more, be more deliberate with thinking about things before you speak. I mean, I was bad at that. Not that I'm good now, but I was really bad at that. I'd get pretty worked up pretty quick about stuff, and would just obsess over stuff and be frustrated and stressed out, and just not have good interactions with people. And you just kind of learn that it's not productive for the department, you leading by example, or, obviously your family, because it affects them then too. I mean, I think anybody that enjoys the job like we do, it's not something you just turn off. So I think just being able to be an observer, you try to be, kind of a historian of things, situations in the past that you've learned from or that you've seen on the department, and then just try to offer a well thought out perspective. Don't ever diminish if there's problems. Don't give the political answers, because I don't think that's ever going to earn you any respect, because you're not really saying anything.
Yeah.
But try to give a perspective that, hey, we might be going through this, but I mean, just give perspective of maybe the past, depending on the situation, and then try to bring it back to, what we have, maybe as a crew, maybe you got to kind of cocoon yourself as a crew, or whatever, as a group, and say, all right, we're going to focus on us right now, and this is what we're going to do, and this is the mission, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and let's not lose sight of if you got to go back to your first day and how excited you were, and just like, hey, this is still the best job. We got great people, great crew. We're still going to focus on what we need to get done, even though this is maybe going on. And it can be a roller coaster. I mean, I can tell you, just in 8 years, it's been there's been ups and downs, and a lot of them I didn't handle well. But I tried to learn from them, and now try to just think things through a little bit more, and before speaking. But yeah, I think perspective is everything. And just talking about things with people, or as a big group, maybe as a department. And if it needs to happen, have those team meetings. But I think it goes back to what you guys talked about earlier, is if you have that bond already built together, it makes those things a little bit easier, and it makes those things easier to get through those tough times. Yeah, just perspective and just talking about it. I mean, and again, it's respectful, and meet. Most of the times you can just meet in the middle. The reason people don't meet in the middle, and myself included, is because you're just being lazy. It's easier to just complain or make an issue out of something that's very small. It's easier to do that than actually just say, okay, let's sit down and meet in the middle on this, and because that's usually all it is that, any experience I've ever had, it's like things that'll go on, whether they last a day or 6 months. Usually it just comes down to something really stupid. It's a pretty easy fix. It just takes, people to be responsible and kind of look at themselves and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's, what you're looking for, but I mean,
Oh yeah. I
think,
mean, the rumor mill sucks. That's
oh
what
yeah,
it
it'll
comes
kill
down
you.
to it. Especially we've talked about this many times, personally. I'm not sure on the podcast, but with having it as a small department and one that relatively, we're busy, but the fires aren't. And quoting Bobby here, but you can get a bunch of fat girls in Motley Crue playing, and you'll get all of his guys at work all hype up, but it was nothing compared to a fire. Your fire is your morale booster. That's how that's just how things are. And a lot of people say, especially from the bigger departments, the smaller ones, that's where it's a little harder. Where you mentioned, you can make a mistake in the beginning, in the morning, and you fix it in the afternoon. But us, not only do we have time to sit on those mistakes, but people try and find time to fill the voids when you're not running fires. It's got EMS jobs all day. Did you hear what this person did on that EMS call? Oh, Jesus. Did you hear what they want to do on our next fire call or whatever? It's the rumor man. And that's, like you said, whether it takes a day or 2 or 6 months, it usually depends on how many people it gets to the rumor mill before it gets to somebody who has the balls to go to that person and go, hey, I heard this. What's this about? Let's talk about it. Is this there? Because longer it's a game of telephone, the longer it's sitting there, the more it gets skewed, confused, more people get pissed off, and just one stupid simple fix of just talking to that person.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it kind of, I kind of feel like now I'm thinking here, and I think some things you can do besides, perspective and things like that is, if it's the rumor mill, again, you got it, whether it's the rumor mill or actually like a departmental policy or something that people disagree with, you have to talk to people. And we've all failed at that, but we have to do that to get the perspective of where people are coming from. If a policy comes down, okay, what's the mindset behind it? Like there's a reason. And more times than not, we build up all this stuff again. And it's just, you get it up here and then all of a sudden you hear the actual truth of where something came from, policy or not. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then the more that happens, the more in the back of your head, you're like, okay, I'm not going to get worked up about this because there's probably a reason for it, whether I agree with it or not. That's so important. I think it's just a lot of self-discipline too. You just as a person have to be like, all right, I need to be better at this and be a little bit calmer about, maybe how I go about this, and think things through. But stagnation will kill you. As a culture, been there, done that. And it, like you said, time is not our friend when fires and busyness isn't happening. And that's why I think one thing you can do, especially as an officer, because you have the ability to facilitate it, is make the days busier then. And I shouldn't say busier. They should always be, again, I think you guys know, we always strive, shift wise we're out training, right?
Yeah.
But don't lose that. That's where if, you go a stretch where you're not busy call wise, if you already have that training culture and those days that from 7 until 5, you guys are, and even after, but like that day is filled up with stuff. It's going to make it a lot harder to sit around and kick the rumor mill around and complain and stuff, So if that training culture is already there, well, then when you're not busy, it just means you get to do more training and more training that's not interrupted. So, as an officer, you have the ability to do that and build that and motivate people to say, hey, I like this is how my day is, and that we're busy, and whether it's calls or doing stuff, that's great. Yeah. And I think that can really help during times of just whether it's, leadership issues or rumor mill or low call volume, it can keep you busy to keep those negative things away and keep you strong, whether it's as a crew or as a department. So I think that's really important.
Sure.
Absolutely. Brennan, got anything to add?
No, that was good.
All right, sweet. So now, kind of with a perfect timing, we're going to go to the closing questions that we have. So, like I said, Duffy gave you quite the loaded one. So, we'll kind of we know where he was going with it, but we also want to see where you kind of take it first, based on the conversations that we had. But his question is simply, as a new firefighter, if he walked in the doors, he wished that he had asked, "What is going to happen to me?"
Boy, that is a deep question.
It's deep.
So that's a new firefighter asking what's going to
Captain
happen.
or lieutenant.
That's what he wished that
Or
he would
senior
have asked when
member.
he walked in the door. Yeah, senior member or captain, just a question that he asked when he started the job. How would you respond as that captain?
I guess the first thing that pops in my head is, and the reason it does is because I think it's one of the easiest things you can do to earn respect is just care about people. And if you like physically can't care about people, then you certainly better learn how to try. And I think the first thing I'd tell them is that, and I don't know how to word it, but, number one is that you're going to have people like myself that care about you throughout whatever's going to happen from this day on. And then from that caring aspect, that arching, caring is underneath that is everything else we just talked about. We're going to train you. We're going to be with you. This department, these guys and gals that are working with you are going to be the people that throughout your career, if you're here for a long time or you're here for a day, they're going to go through life's troubles with you. They're going to be your family. You're going to, you're not going to like them some days. You're going to love them other days. But that's what's going to happen to you is you're going to experience, the best job in the world. And this is what makes it the best job in the world. And those bad times, you're going to have people that care about you. And whether it's in life or department issues, or you get frustrated with the department, you're going to build that group. We're going to help you build that group of people that's always there for you, so that you're not alone on this job. But you're going to go through tough times, you're going to, it's the best job in the world. But like you guys talked about mental health stuff, like you were talking with Blatz and all them. And I mean, you're going to have troubles. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but more than likely it's going to happen. And just know that we're always here for you, and we're going to care about you, and we're going to care about how good of a fireman you are, because we're going to do our best to make you that. We're going to make you the best paramedic, and I guess that'd be my way if that's the right answer or not, or a good answer. But I think if you just show that you care about people, whether you're an officer or not, it just earns you a lot of respect and friendships, and it just makes life a lot easier. So yeah, I guess that'd be how I'd answer it, is just that, hey, you're gonna have people that care about you. This is what your career is gonna, this is a little glimpse of maybe what your career is going to be like. Maybe not specific things, but these are some of the things you're going to encounter based on the things maybe all of us have encountered, and talk. I would talk to them as a crew, not just as like, I'd say, hey, I'll talk to you here now, but ask that question up at the kitchen table. We'll talk about it. I'll make sure it happens. Cause that is a great question. You'll probably get your balls busted a little bit, initially, but and in a good way.
What's going to happen to me? You're going to learn to scrub toilets.
Yeah, somebody will say something stupid. You just have to be prepared for it. But overall, the guys are gonna. I think anybody. I don't know anybody that that would just absolutely blow you off. I think once you get that ball rolling, where maybe, you as a captain or officer or somebody else starts facilitated, once you get everybody talking, guys are more willing to open up. Yeah. And I mean, that is a great question. I mean, I can't stress that enough. I mean, I can just envision my head now, guys talking about their careers and whether they're 1 year or 20 years, talking about, maybe the hard times they went through, the good times, what it was like, and not to scare a person, but to kind of give them a glimpse of what's going to happen to them. Like he asked, and that'd be a pretty cool thing to see, actually, see a group just talking, and I think it builds that bond even more. Right. But, yeah. I mean, just, And if you're on, our crew, then you're going to have 7 other people that, they're going to be here for you. And if they're not, well, then, you come talk to me or whoever else is in charge, kind of deal. So, yeah, that's all I got, I guess.
Yeah, no, and that's like, there's no right or wrong answer, but like Brennan said, it's 10 out of 10. That's exactly where, and that's exactly where I expect or believe that Duffy was coming from based on the conversation on Led there, because we went a lot into mental health and what you're going to see and who's there to take care of you and whatnot. And he'd gotten some really bad advice, some really good advice when he started about all that stuff. So that's right on the head. I mean, that's just how it is. And having that crew have your back is just the best part that you can have about this job, because you're going to see some fucked up shit, and you're going to have some great days as well. And you got to find a way to balance those out. And that's with the people that you're there with every third day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, don't ever make people feel ashamed for mental health stuff. The longer, I think it affects everybody different, but the longer you do this or whatever, everybody's affected differently by things. And, the more you read about, just mental health and how your brain works and stuff, like you said, you see some really bad things that normal people shouldn't have to see, and you see a large volume of it. But then you had on top maybe we don't feel it, but it's there, the pressure of performing on the job, the stress of the job, the stress of just maybe work stuff going on, like you said, departmental issues, not having control over that stuff sometimes. That all adds up, and eventually it's going to come out in some way that the brain feels like it. And it could be stress, could be, anxiety, depression, any of those things. And knowing you got people is so important, I think. And, it's a scary thing, I mean, that it's just a scary thing. And if you don't think it'll affect you, man, it's probably going to. I mean, it's just too much on this job that, accumulates with, like we were talking, we've been talking a lot about it, and it'll come up and bite you when you least expect it. And it'll just be like, you can be a lost person. You'll just be like, what is going on here? And you just gotta take care of your, like my wife says, we go to the doctor if we're sick, physically and stuff like that. You got to take care of your mental health that way. And I never really believed in that, but, do now, because you just, eventually it does, it gets you. And you got to take care of your mind like you take care of your body, by going, whether it's going to a doctor or just finding those outlets, outside of the job, working out, those healthy habits, and then have people and go do stuff with people, have fun in life, because unfortunately we have a job that I think you just you build up a numbness, and you're able to flip that switch so that you can do the job really well, or perform in situations that just aren't normal for people. But man, it's not good when you can flip that switch in your normal life, and just turn your emotions off with your family, or just anytime you feel stress, because that will catch up with you, and it's not healthy at all. So, go do stuff outside of work and have as much fun as you can with people, because it's going to make you happy. And you don't want to become a numb person, because at work, sometimes on the calls we go on, you have to be very numb, right? I mean, you just have to be, or you're not going to be able to function. The stuff that people don't read in the papers or see on the news is what would shock them in regard to the things that we see. It's not always the terrible accidents or fires. It's just the absolute accumulation of seeing old people alone, going on EMS calls thinking, what if I'm that 80-year-old man someday that has nobody, or seeing the living conditions that people live. That stuff just to me, that stuff just adds up. You're always faced with a lot of depressed situations on the job, and man, it just kind of I think it just kind of affects you and puts you into this kind of, it takes a lot of happiness away, because we see a lot of just bad parts of the world. And, to think it's not going to affect you, I don't know how you can think that. I mean, I shouldn't say that, because, I think we all start there, but I think the job is to make sure that younger people coming up first start, and then everybody's that, hey, it's all right. It's okay.
It's all right to feel something.
It is. Yeah. Come talk to us. You don't be ashamed. It's not the culture we want to have. So, but it's really important.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend's dad about it. We were talking about everything, and because he couldn't believe that people call 911 for bullshit reasons, or what we deem bullshit reasons. And we always say you got to treat everybody's emergency like an emergency, but even with that, there are some that are like, this was not your emergency. And so that kind of started it. But we got talking about how, the 80% are stuff that aren't really needed and more nuisance, but that 20% is stuff that no human should see. And when you think about it, I mean, this job is not something made for humans. We are not made to be woken out of REM sleep and go from a heart rate of 40 to 110 and have to be fully actional to drive a 70,000 pound ladder truck or engine, or at 3 a.m. That's your body itself is not made to do that. It's unhealthy. It's what's killing us. It's where all the studies do. But then you take the physical aspect away and you think of the mental. Nobody's supposed to see that once in their life, let alone 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times the gruesome stuff that we see, and the horrible living conditions that are that 80% of nuisance calls, where you can walk in and go, how is somebody living like this? Like, it's not something that was made for humans, and it's something you got to prepare that it's going to change you one way or another, whether you think that it does or not. It's going to change. So it's going to change. You hear the bigger city guys, or I hear cops talk about this a lot. Like, it changes where they sit at a restaurant. They won't sit with their backs to the door. They'll sit near an egg. Like, it passively changes aspects of you that you won't maybe even identify, but that maybe someday your significant other or your family or someone's be like, why'd you do that? And you're like, oh, I guess I did it because that's what I do at work, or that's what I have to do, or that's, it's stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. It affects you one way or another. It makes you who you are in a lot of ways, so, that stuff adds up, like you said, so.
Yeah. Knowing what to expect. I think that's a great, your answer to it, of what's going to happen, just knowing that you're going to change. I mean, and that you got the crew that's going to help you go through it, and all that help is just, that's what you got. All right. So from one loaded question now to your chance to make a loaded question, which historically has also been a loaded question because people can't think of what they're going to ask. So next thing, the closing one that we have is, what question do you wish that you asked as a new firefighter, or do you still have yet to be answered?
It's another good one. And
this will be for Chief Knowles of City of Fond du Lac. He'll be our next guest.
Man. What a great guy, too. Oh, man. I can't wait for that one. Boy. So what would you ask? Maybe a question that hasn't been answered for you, huh?
I told you, it's another loaded one. It's the hardest one, and you got to come up with one. That's why you got to send in questions for us, people. Brennan and I can't keep coming up with all of them.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Boy, that is a tough one.
You don't have to force something here either. We did let Blatt sit on a little bit, so we can give you that option as well. But
yeah, I'm thinking there's so much stuff that, it's such, I'm thinking like really big picture, and,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess, what I'm thinking, like career wise, like what's a point, what's something, in your career that, I guess, affected you, that wasn't related to, maybe a call or something like that, that maybe changed your pathway on the job or how you thought about things? And what was a pivotal point in your career that, and maybe it was a call, but just completely changed? I don't think I've ever asked that of anybody. Like what event changed you as, on the job or, as a person? I mean, because I think it does affect you as a person, no doubt, good or bad, I guess that's the only thing I can come up with, whether it's a call, a life situation, and that's very personal. So, I mean, that's not something that, people, that'd be something that I would only ever ask of somebody that's a close friend of mine, probably, if they're really going to give a really deep answer, something very personal. But even just a call that completely, maybe it affected you, maybe it affected your mental health as far as like, holy crap, that was a situation, I guess I could have died. I never really, you think about it. You don't think about it until you're in a situation like that and you're like, oh boy. And I mean that, did that affect you? How did it affect you? I guess, I don't know, kind of talking in circles, but, I guess that'd be all I can come up with. Just
I think I got it nailed down. I got what was a pivotal point in your career that changed you on the job or as a person?
Yeah, that works. You're able to put it down a lot better than I could spit it out. So.
I just was.
Bryce is good at that. I'm not very good at it. I just kind of like brainstorm. And he puts
that is the best. Yeah, I'll be sitting there with the computer, and then Brennan just like word vomit stuff, and I'm like,
yep.
How does this sound? That's what I meant.
Yep.
It's great.
Great.
Yeah, I can't like organize it.
No, great partnership. But
that's funny.
No, that's a real good question. I like that a lot. I'll be curious to hear from him. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Been lining up with them. We're gonna nail a date down here and get it out there. So that concludes the questions that we have. So the last part we have is our kitchen table that we have. So either anything that you want to touch more on that you didn't get an opportunity of from anything that we asked, or any shout outs you want to do, any trainings that we got coming up. I know you're working on some by us, which would be kind of cool to get out there, but anything like that you want?
I'm sorry that my background is not very fireman. You guys are way above and beyond. I have a work hard, be nice poster behind me. It's not mine.
I love it.
But no, in all seriousness, no. I mean, training wise, we're working on some bigger stuff that we're working on. Hopefully next year we can have a man and machine training by it's Vulcan training. Look them out. It looks like a great course. I know Corey's working on the electric vehicle stuff. But I just think with our training center, we got a lot of great things coming as a department. And I guess talking about those two, it really just falls under just getting some hot classes. Getting some of these instructors that we've gone, you guys, we've been able to go around the country, fortunately, and get to see whether it's practical or getting to hear them lecture, bringing some of those people to Beaver Dam, people like Frazier coming to the area multiple times to do that extrication training. That stuff's just so important.
Yeah.
That's just literally what you build a foundation off of, is some of the stuff that you learn in those classes. So I just think that's so important to get out of your bubble and get out of that 50-mile radius or whatever, and just go places. And it can be frustrating when you come back sometimes, but it gives you something to work at, right? And to push for, and kind of learn how to navigate, unfortunately, that path of trying to make change. It's not as easy as beating your head against the wall. Trust me, been there, done that. It does not work a lot of times. But just effectively being able to create change. Sometimes it sucks because you gotta swallow your pride a little bit, and you're just like, all right, how can I do this without, I don't want to say be political, but you have to find a way to communicate sometimes your ideas to get good, effective response, so you can get the change, which is the most important thing that you feel like, hey, I want to make sure we're doing X, Y, and Z, better, because that matters to me. How do I get there? Because sometimes if I do what I learned this from experience. One way I do it is just hollering and screaming and say, we have to do it. That didn't seem to always work as well sometimes as having a good conversation where I kind of swallowed my own pride and was like, no, this is right. This needs to be done. Going down that rabbit hole, but so I think that's why all that hot classes and all that's going on around the country is just so important, and it's great. We got so many people going to that stuff. So being able to bring that to Beaver Dam is awesome.
And the surrounding communities that can come around Beaver Dam, like Horicon,
Juneau,
all those guys that don't have the opportunity to go out, different states to go get that training. It'd be great to get that locally for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can change our culture as a whole, as a county. That'd be really great.
Absolutely, man.
And building those relationships with the other fire departments that we work.
There you go. That's huge. I mean, building those relationships, mutual aid wise, that's just so important, and getting, again, it's just like us getting to know our families, getting to know us, being able to put faces and names to the departments that we're responding to or coming by us. It just makes the world a lot easier when bad stuff happens. So no, you're absolutely right. I mean, shout out wise, I mean, I got to give a shameless plug to the Shift One brothers. Tony, Josh, Justin, Connor, Tim, and Andy, best crew a guy could have. They make my job a lot easier. They make it so super easy, and they just, they're just the crew that you'd want, and self-sufficient, and, proud to work with those guys. And I think, I guess one thing that comes out of that, just thinking about it, is that I think as a new firefighter, I think throughout your career, if you just have the mindset that you just want to be the guy that people want to work with, whether that progresses your career into being an officer or whatever, I think that'll really point you in the right direction of what to do. Because that, at the end of the day, that's all you got is the reputation, and that's what matters, right? It's the people you work with. And I guess I just always wanted to be the guy that people are like, if there's a bad call, I want to be on it with him, and I think that fully encompasses what you should be doing and working towards to make sure that that's the reputation you have. Being calm, trying to be calm, be proficient in all your skills and stuff like that. So, I just think that's something that's really important. And I was just thinking about that because, that's how I feel about these guys and you guys. And I just think that's a great goal for people to have, is just be that person that somebody wants to work with,
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that concludes everything that we got down on here. So we really appreciate you coming on. As I'm sure you know, because you hear us talking about it all the time, we end our podcast the same way every single time. So anything less that you have to throw in there? Otherwise, then I'll start us. Then we got Brennan. Then you'll take us out with our don't be a shitbag. So.
No, I just want to say I do appreciate you guys. I have no idea why you asked me, but I do appreciate that you guys had me on. I initially, I was like, I'm not gonna. I don't.
Yeah, we had to bug you a little bit.
Yeah, but out of respect for you guys, and the hard work you do and stuff, and I just felt like it. It just was the respectful thing to do. Again, I don't know why you had me on, but it's very humbling, and I appreciate it. And it kind of goes back to that feeling of just, people want to work with you, so it makes me feel good. So I appreciate you guys thought of me. So, and hopefully set up Mr. Knowles with, man, that guy, he's going to be a lot better than that last guy. So hopefully I did a good job with that. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's pretty much all I got.
We are honored to have you on. You're a hell of a captain, very pivotal in both of our careers. We were very, very earned our respect very much. There was right in the front list when we were thinking of people to ask. So that was why we bugged you and why we wanted you on there. Is you've done great things. Doesn't matter how humble you want to put yourself off to be. You're a hell of a captain.
Brennan, make sure that gets cut out.
He doesn't do the editing.
Control.
Didn't you already figure that part out? Yeah, he doesn't do the
I really suck at
stuff
computers,
like
so
I was hopeful.
No,
No,
we
thanks,
appreciate
I appreciate
it, Captain.
that. I appreciate
Absolutely. All right. Well, without further ado, then we'll see you guys next month for Chief Knowles. We'll have him on. We'll have his bio coming out there, and look forward to talking to him. So thanks again, Cap, and as always, everybody, don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, thanks guys for listening. Stay tuned for next month. Don't be shitbag.
Captain, don't be a shitbag.
that. Don't be a shitbag.
See you, everybody.